GDOC 2020 hype. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? We want to thank you for keeping it locked in with us while we do our thing to promote inclusivity within the gaming industry. Now, we're in for a real treat because we're going to be joined by Ethan Red, who is the creative lead at Virtuoso Neomedia. He's going to give us an inside look at the design and production of Zodiac XX, which is the first game to be commissioned and released for the gdocExpo Humble Award. Now, Ethan is a multimedia designer, artist, consultant, and founder of Virtuoso Neomedia. He's a self-taught jack of all trades, and he has a signature style all his own. And he very much believes in the power of art and media to push people further in their lives and to push them to reach up higher. So, without further ado, give it up, all you got, for our man's Ethan Red.
Zodiac XX, my latest and greatest game, made possible by the Game Devs Color Award. So before getting too deep into it, who am I? I'm founder and creative lead of Virtuoso Neomedia. We're an independent production house and game design and art direction consultancy. We're currently at work on multiple exciting titles for our clients and a few originals of our own. Additionally, I'm an adjunct professor at NYU, lending a hand teaching the MFA thesis course this semester, and was a Game Devs Color Award winner last year. Just a little taste of my work. I love bold, bright colors and just like life-affirming experiences, right? I try to make stuff that leaves people a little better off after they've played it than they were before. So a little bit before we actually get into the content of the talk, I want to talk about what this talk is and what it isn't. So I don't believe in one-size-fits-all advice. That approach generally doesn't really work for anybody, in my opinion, when it comes to art. So what this is just what worked for me, how I like to work, my process, things I've done right and wrong, and just hopefully some experience for you to, just think about your own process and consider as you're making your thing. So yeah, your mileage will vary. Take it with a grain of salt. So yeah, the game itself, Zodiac XX, is a narrative-driven 3D dogfighting drama, as I like to call it. It's in a world not too dissimilar from our own, in which the leads are up against insurmountable forces and are trying to meet it with equal will. It's a game that's as much about its explosions and backflips at the ocean as it is what it has to say. And just diving right into it, we tried to invest heavily in the essence of the game. And by essence, what do I mean? All good games, in my opinion, have 4 core pillars in their design. They have their verb, which is what we're doing, which can either be what's happening in your hand with the controller, or the actual verbs your characters are doing, or what's actually happening within the game systems. The aesthetic, how it happens. This can be both audio visual cues, like graphics and art style, or music and other presentational elements, and just generally like the modality the game is presented. We have the fantasy, which is sort of deeper under those two things, which is what are we actually selling to the player? Why are we doing this? Why do they care? And then finally, the message. What do we, the creator, want to say? What do we want our players to remember? What are we getting out of this game? And ultimately, why does anyone else care? Every single one of those pillars should be distinct and palpable. And in the best games, they all are interwoven and bleed into one another. And the sum of that is what people walk away from your games with. So with Zodiac, we started early on with the verb, right? Like I wanted to make something in the Ace Combat lineage, but sort of evolving from there and doing away with what I don't like about the dogfighting genre. Beyond that, I wanted the player to be making tactical decisions with real consequence. I want them to assess danger and have to deal with the ramifications of their decisions and what it feels like actually commanding their squad. The message of the game was largely just honestly about the anger that people like myself and my age are feeling right now at the world and the systems that are failing us, and being able to express just thoughts and musings on that, and showing what leadership and heroism in direct action looks like to me. And then, selling that through the fantasy with, expressing that revolutionary rage, showing leadership and consequence, being top dog in this crack shot team of professionals and going through triumphs and losses together. And wrapping that all up in a 90s anime inspired, dynamic, light-hearted, but still somewhat gritty tone, with, you know, cool music and great graphic, hopefully. We got to work on that ASAP. I had my brother drawing up some amazing concept art, as well as the musicians I'm working with immediately sent me some amazing drafts, just within weeks of just telling them that we actually were going to be going ahead with this project, which sort of dovetails into my next point, is trusting the right people. The musicians I'm working with, my brother who's helping me with the art, these are some of the most talented people that I'm blessed to know. And before the Humble Award was even on the table, we were kicking ideas around. But as soon as I told them that, you know, this was a go and I was going to be going down this path, they were all excited and knew exactly where I wanted to take it, sometimes before I even told them what to do. And that's just invaluable. You can't replace having a band of people that you trust and who understand your vision. And yeah, the last sort of core pillar of what really went right with this game is building cleanly from day one. There's a real sort of temptation to keep just kind of getting immediate results when you're starting on a new idea. You want to make things pretty, you want to make things presentable, you want to get it to that GIFable prototype. But with my productions, I try to prototype cleanly, if you will, and start from a place where we can build off of it directly if we like where we're going. This especially works if you have a strong idea for where you want your game to land. And although immediately you might not have something that's gorgeous, you'll have a starting point that allows you to keep directly building as the idea matures. So some specific ideas to achieve that is keeping everything modular and separated. You'll break out the duct tape later in design, trust me. Keep that in your toolkit at the beginning. This will allow you to build those elements and test them separately and cleanly. Start with broad strokes and solutions. You can worry about specifics and making sure everything works exactly as you intend later on. Make sure the foundation is solid. And then lastly, writing your code backwards from your usage to your implementation. Think how you'd like to work with your code base rather than how you just continually have to when you're building everything prototype to prototype. And using these methods, Zodiac XX was actually playable within about 2 weeks. We had everything from AI navigation to core game feel to dogfighting AI, all working and playable within essentially a month. And beyond that, we were able to start weaving that braid and start thinking about the actual player experience going through the game. The actual flow that the game landed on with the sort of briefing to gameplay loop was playable within that month. And we've been able to refine that experience ever since and make sure that the core of the game was tight. And yeah, just investing in these solid systems allowed us to make sure that everything was just tight and polished and feels right and communicates those tenets that I expressed earlier. Problem here, though, is there does come a point where you need to trade off working on systems to working on specifics. And with Zodiac, that point came later than I would have liked, which leads to my last point, is doubling down. When I started this production, the idea initially was to make something small and very manageable and releasable within 2 or 3 months. On my end, like to make it, you know, just make sense time-wise, I budgeted like 200 or so of my own man hours to finish the game. And once we got to about 150, I could see where the game could go. I saw what it could be, and I compared that to what it was going to be at that stage. And consciously, I scoped up. Just an example of this is, you know, there's all this world building present in the game. There was 30,000 words, you know, almost a light novel amount written to figure out where we were, what it should feel like, all that good stuff in the world. And it took a long time to come up with these concepts. It took a long time to land on something that feels real and fanciful, that feels dynamic, that feels like you could actually be there and there's a place you'd want to be. And, you know, it took more time than I initially budgeted for this game. And I knew to allow things like this to happen with the rest of the elements of the game, with the character design, with the ship designs, with the mission scenarios and all of that, we were going to need that time. that initially I hadn't planned for. And all that was done a month before release, right? Like if we had have initially cut off those additional 4 months, Zodiac would have been fun, but it would have been forgettable. And ultimately, I knew with this, where I was when I accepted this award, with what this award means, being the first time being given out, and what this conference means, it didn't feel right to just do what I was asked. I wanted to go beyond. I wanted to show that Black worlds and Black stories are immersive. I want to show that our games, our ideas are not niche. They're not just these, you know, it's not, you know, we're not a gimmick, you know, because our art matters and vis-a-vis we matter, right? And I felt that responsibility to make sure that I gave my absolute best to this project. And that takes time, and, you know, I did what I had to do. You know, I'm especially grateful for the committee for being patient with me, especially to John and Sean. I know I made you guys a little nervous. Definitely gave you guys some headaches there, but I really appreciate everyone involved with making this conference what it is, and for believing in me to make something to represent us this first time out. So yeah, just going to the takeaways. Crystallize your core early, build your band and learn to lean on them. Test early, test often, test on real content. Please, for the love of God, do not start late on that. Solid systems are key, but so are your specifics. Think about your scenarios as much as your systems, and your content should probably start earlier than you think. And lastly, dream big and commit, because the future is only as bright as we make it, or forever.
Want to thank you so very much, Ethan, for sharing with us that entire process. I'm a big fan of dogfighting games. I mean, I don't know how far you want to go back. I enjoyed playing, like, for example, like the battle mode in like Star Fox 64, which is effectively like, you know, like one of the first kind of like times where I really got into like playing like dogfighting games of that nature, and like games like Rogue Squadron, you know, like Robotech Battle Cry, like those kinds of games. Yeah, I'm a super big fan. So like when I saw this come up, I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be great. And I really think that you are just a perfect example of what, you know, the Humble Bundle and Game Devs of Color Expo, you know, Game Creators of Color Award, you know, is about. Because you really decided that you were going to, you know, you took this seriously. You have just everything, just again, you like, I'm very big on doing things very cleanly. And then if you have to do duct tape later, like that's my big thing. You want your foundation to be very solid. And exactly. I think that this award was a perfect give. And it looks like it was a perfect match for you. So shout out to Humble Bundle. Shout out to Game Devs of Color, the Expo. I'm super thrilled. So I will have eyes on this game. Trust me, I got you.
Thank you.
So yeah, so shout out to Ethan. Anybody who's watching this, show some support in the comments, share, like. I'm gonna keep my eyes on this game. That's it. I'm locked in, and you should be locked in as well. So thank you very much. And we got way more where this came from.